This
MSME.
conference will now be
There's a lot of,
recorded.
so all of us know that in past 6 months there are a lot of announcements which have been there from central government, RBI, and different regulators giving various benefits to MSME. But at the same time, there are a lot of questions which all of us have, like, what are the eligibility criteria for MSME? What are the benefits available? To avail those benefits, what kind of steps are required to be taken? And hence, we felt this is a topic which is very relevant in today's time. And to deal with this topic, I would like to thank Kaushik Bhai to agree and give and share his knowledge with us today. I personally know him, interacted with him many times in past. I had an opportunity to visit his house also and met family members. So thank you very much, Kaushik Bhai, for accepting our invitation today. And I'm
Thank
sure
you.
knowledge
Welcome.
sharing would be fantastic today. Thing. So with this, I would like to ask someone to give an introduction for today's speaker. Yeah, over to you.
Uh, I'm Mitesh Dharamshi, Secretary of KDSCA Association. I got the immense pleasure to introduce Mr. Kaushik Khona. Kaushik Khona has vast experience in corporate till the level of CXO. He is now practicing since last 1 year in a chartered accountant firm, Talati and Talati, as a partner. He is fellow CA, fellow CS, fellow CMA, and rank holder in inter and final CA, final CS, and was gold medalist in first year BCom. He is also resolution professional and qualified as independent director. In his professional corporate journey, he has traveled a lot. In a span of, he has started his career from Ahmedabad in Vadilal Ice Cream Groups, and then in Gujarat Ambuja Export. From there, shifted to Mumbai in 2008. In Mumbai, he was for a period of 10 years before he again went back to Ahmedabad. His role at a well-known corporate group at Ahmedabad, since he has joined Talati and Talati LLP as a partner and is leading the consulting, business re-engineering and finance consulting practice at the firm. During his corporate professional experience, he successful turnaround domestic aviation ventures, Go Air as a CEO. At Go Air, he has handled area of operations, and from time to time, when the promoter wanted to sell the airline to a time when he has signed a 72 aircraft deal in France after turning around the business by making it profitable on substantial basis. He also did business restructuring for the real estate and textile division of Bombay Dyeing while he was at Wadia Group. He has also turned around several business of Dupont Tires Group, including a diverse geography at Germany, UK, and India. While he was at Mumbai, he successfully carried out extensive corporate restructuring for shipping ventures and a financial and business restructuring for a German-India JV in renewable energy. This is the brief introduction of Shri Kaushik Khona. Now I hand over the desk to Kaushik Khona.
Thank you. Thank you, Ghanshyam Bhai, Charvik, and Gautam Bhai, for giving me this opportunity to talk to our friends on a very important topic of MSME. Since last 3-4 months, I think MSME has been the talk of the town across the whole of the country, and I'm sure a lot of our community people would be interested to know. They may be already knowing, but maybe I'm just trying to add some more vision to what an MSME benefits have been given during this last 3 to 4 months. So at the outset, I thank KTOCA Association, and I hope that I will be able to provide some insights on what the MSME benefits are for uh, for the for our benefit. So with this, let me uh, begin with my presentation. I hope I am audible, Gautam bhai.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Perfectly audible, and your
Sure.
presentation is also visible.
So I would just begin with the the major issue, which is we have been discussing, we have been seeing across that the MSME definition has been changed, and this is a major step to the MSME being in limelight now. Earlier, as you are aware, the MSMEs were known for small and medium businesses, where the definition in the earlier stage was only in respect of the investment criteria, but now they are investment and turnover criteria jointly. And you can see from the slide which is on your device, where the investment criteria, which was earlier for micro, which was of less than 25 lakh, has now been upgraded to more, I mean, around 1 crore, below 1 crore, and turnover of below 5 crore is micro, whether it is manufacturing or service. Similarly, investment for investment which is less than 10 crore, and turnover which is less than 50 crore is small, and investment which is less than 50 crore and turnover which is less than 250 crore is medium. So from a definition of investment criteria, we have almost 5 times, 4 to 5 times we have increased our ambit and the scope, and I think this is a major change from what it was last more than 19, 18, 19 years. And this is where I think the interest comes in. Before we go into what MSME and who will be eligible, I think there are certain businesses which have been excluded for being considered as MSME, which are listed over here. Some of them are like wholesale and retail trade. Retail trade, except for motor vehicles and motorcycles, activities of household nature, and some similar nature. But otherwise, practically all the manufacturing and service sector enterprise are covered for the eligibility of MSME, subject to the criteria of turnover and investment. What has happened from 1st of July is that earlier, which was the registration which was under Udyog, now it is Udyam registration, and we have to enter into the Udyam registration portal to get ourselves registered. The registration process is very simple, and I think it can be completed within a period of 10 minutes if we have all the data, not the papers, but the data which need to be entered into the portal. The registration process, I will just scroll through that, where when we have to enter into Udyam registration portal, first of all, we need to ensure that the person who is entering, logging the Udyam registration portal, his Aadhaar number is going to be verified. So whether if your business is proprietary business, ideally proprietor should enter this portal and he should provide his Aadhaar number. There will be a OTP verification. In case of partnership firm, it could be managing partner. In case of HUF business, it could be Karta, and so forth. But once the Aadhaar is verified, then the step goes on for the registration of the unit. And the second step is to verify the PAN. Now, PAN is of the business, not of the person, not of the entrepreneur. So if it is a business which is proprietary, it is obviously the proprietor. But otherwise, it will be the business PAN which will be verified. So that is second step of verification, and thereafter the filing is done. If you can see on the screen, what additional details are required to be handy before you start to log in. One is that the portal is udyamregistration.gov.in, and then what you need to know is that what is the ITR file for the financial year 2018-19, more so to know whether it was ITR 3 or 5 or 6, or it was ITR 4, which is normally used in a presumptive taxation regime. You need to know the GST registration, and keep all these things you should note down on a piece of paper, so that you don't need to search when you are actually logging in. The office address, typically once you enter the GST registration number, the office address will be populated, but if at all there is some difficulty, office address and the district in which the unit is established and the applicable district industry center should be known. If you are already registered earlier, either with a registration under the Udyog registration or under E2, then the previous number should be available which you can enter. So then the earlier details are also captured. The date of incorporation of the entity, nature of activity, whether it is manufacturing or service. Now here, if the unit is already into manufacture and service, then we have to decide as to which is the major activity, whether manufacturing is a major activity or service is a major activity. And I think majority would be decided on the basis of the, let's say, top line. Then you have NIC codes which need to be entered of the activities which you are entering into. And NIC code, multiple NIC codes are allowed to be entered. So if you are into a business of more than 3 or 4 products, then you can enter the NIC codes of all these products. Other thing which you need to keep handy is the bank account details of the unit, the bank account number, the bank and the IFSC code, and what is also required is the number of employees and how many of them are male and how many of them are female. This is the basic information which is required to register yourself on the Udyam registration. And there is an option available that if you want yourself to be registered on government e-portal, then you can just tick and you will be your data will be populated on the e-portal, so that in future whenever there is some government tenders and all, you are available as a kind of you can be given the data of that. And you can also optionally click yourself for the registration on the TREDS portal. I hope you are all aware about TREDS, but I will for the sake of benefit of those who don't know, I will discuss in detail about this TREDS portal. But this is the basic process of getting yourself registered on Udyam. So from 1st of July, this portal is already available. I think it was made available after 3rd of July, but people have started accessing on this new portal. What happens to the existing enterprise? Very interesting. All existing enterprise registered under the Udyog or under the enterprise memorandum will have to register again after 1st of July. And so there will be reclassification based on what is the turnover which you had earlier and what you have disclosed now. The facility is given that for the existing enterprise, you can continue to be on the same registration number till 31st March 2021. However, you should, in your benefit, you should try to get a fresh registration under the Udyam. So once you are already, so if you are already registered under, if your organization already registered under MSME under any other registration, then also you should register under Udyam registration. So this is the basic process of getting yourself registered. Once you have the Udyam registration number, I think the beauty of the whole process is that the government has made everything work online and integrated your details of business vis-a-vis the ITR and the GST. So practically what will happen is that in future, all the updation of the turnover criteria and the income and the investment criteria will be captured from the ITR and from the GST return. And you may not be required to update yourself unless you have some other reason that earlier you were not registered under a GST and now you are getting registered. So that is, and therefore you have to update on a periodic basis. That is also provided. Failure to update relevant information may make the registration of the Udyam suspend for some time until you get it again updated. So this is going to be a game changer for the future. Earlier we had a situation where units registered even in 1991 under the SIA were continued to be registered with the same number, with the same past information, where there was no updation of the information. But now every information is going to be online, populated and integrated with the ITR and the GST returns. There is also information that once you are now registered and you have let's say based on your turnover and investment criteria, you are into one category, which is, for example, the small. And if you are upgrading yourself because of the higher turnover, you will be upgraded. And for example, if you are your turnover is lower than what was earlier when you registered, you will be downgraded, but it's not called downgrading, it's called reverse graduation. So this is an automatic process which will happen based on the changes in the investment and the turnover criteria, which is I think which is necessary for our unit to be updated every time. This is what I said is there is a updation automatic from GST and the IT. Now, what is very important to note is that uh, if you have GST, all the GST numbers under one PAN will be considered as one enterprise, and the turnover and investment of all the units under same PAN will be aggregated together. So it is not that if you have multiple GST number for different states, for example, then it is not that you have to obtain separate MSME numbers, and you cannot obtain separate MSME numbers based on the GST because the MSME registration is obviously on the unit, not on the specific, and it is on the enterprise, not on a specific unit of a state. Turnover, what has been very clearly mentioned is that turnover we can exclude, and we will have to exclude the exports of goods and services. So while arriving at a turnover of, let's say, 250 crore in case of ascertaining for the medium enterprise, the export, if at all we have made, will be excluded, and therefore even if by export the turnover is more than 250 crore, but if you exclude export, then and if the turnover is below 250 crore, we can still continue to be the medium enterprise. The information, as I said, of the turnover and exports will be linked to the GST portal, and therefore it will be automatically updated. One relaxation has been allowed only for this year, is that the turnover of the enterprise which do not have PAN will be considered on the basis of the self-declaration till 31st March 2021. Post that, PAN and GST are compulsory. One more criteria is we have already seen that there is a plant and machinery criteria, investment into plant and machinery criteria, where the investment of, let's say, 50 crore, as in the case of medium enterprise, is based on only the investment in plant and machinery as defined under the Income Tax Act. Now, there is therefore a linkage of investments in plant and machinery to the income tax returns which the unit is going to file. So it has been very clearly mentioned that land and building and furniture fixtures will be excluded, but the plant and machinery will be including the other tangible assets. Now, therefore, when we see the portal, when we actually go to register ourselves, there is also a possibility that because Income Tax Act as of now may not have the original gross block of the past, because in the income tax we always go on having a WDV, and then the depreciation is charged on an every year basis. So possibility is there the WDV of the income tax return would be taken as the investment in plant and machinery for the first time if the income tax returns are linked to the registration. While we for the total investment into plant and machinery, it is mentioned that the purchase value of the plant and machinery will be added, and there are certain things which are excluded, which is cost of pollution control device, research and development, industry safety device, and such other items as may be specified. So this is something plant and machinery, but then there is a specific these areas which are excluded from arriving at the value of plant and machinery, which is to be calculated for the purpose of eligibility criteria. Now, in the past, there was a notification in 2006, which I am only referring for the purpose to understand that what was excluded in the past, it could be a scenario that similar exclusion can come, because there are still some exclusion to be notified. However, as this is the old notification, I am just mentioning for the sake of reference of those who are interested to know what can happen in the future, because this notification is still to come. Similarly, in that notification, it was mentioned what would be the inclusion of the cost while arriving at the plant and machinery. Then it was mentioned at that time that import duty in case of imported machinery, shipping charges, custom and clearance charges, and sales tax and VAT. I'm talking of the old notification. This was the notification where the cost of plant and machinery was defined. There is one more thing which has happened, is that simultaneous to the MSME definition, redefinition of the MSME, there is one facilitation control room which has been made available online, And from the day one, I think more than 58 district centers were connected with each other online, where they are called champions control rooms, where any information, any difficulty a unit may have, immediately you can escalate if you are not able to get the things done. So I think the government has worked to also ensure that if there are any issues, they are getting addressed immediately. While DIC is also a single window facilitation system for that district. Let me just give some illustration as to what will be the criteria for a turnover. I'm just giving some examples. For example, there is a company called Mrs. KDO Limited, has different units registered under GST, and they are different GST. One at Gujarat having turnover of 100 crores, one at Maharashtra having turnover of 125 crores, one at Karnataka having turnover of 50 crore. So in aggregate, we have a turnover of 275 crore. So whether the company will be eligible to register as MSME? Answer is obvious no, because all the three GSTI number total is to be aggregated because they are all under one PAN. Whether the unit will be eligible to register MSME only for Gujarat and Maharashtra and exclude Karnataka? Answer is again no, because the PAN total of all the turnover is going to be aggregated, and even if we as an applicant don't do that, the portal will automatically calculate that your GST turnover is in excess of 250 crores, so you will not be able to register yourself. Suppose in the same illustration, the turnover of Gujarat was fully exports, which means that 100 crores is exports, then whether the company will be eligible to be registered? Yes, obviously, because the export turnover is excluded. So typically then, in spite of the fact that we have 275 crore turnover, the eligible turnover is only 175 crore, and therefore we are within 250 crore. This is obviously subject to the investment criteria. Now, let's say there is another example where there is a company called Growth Limited, which has a trading activity from unit at Gujarat with a turnover of 200 crore, of which export is 100 crore. And it has another trading activity in Maharashtra where the turnover is 30 crore. Whether the Growth Limited will be eligible for MSME? Here, prima facie, one can say the total turnover is 230 crore and therefore it is less than 250 crore. But MSME is not eligible to register because the entire activity is already trading. So when the trading is the only activity, when there is no service element or there is no manufacture element, the MSME is not eligible to be registered as MSME. One more example, Integrated Limited is manufacturing unit of manufacturing paper at Silvassa, which has a turnover of 150 crore. And it has also office at Mumbai, which is engaged in trading in mobile handset with a turnover of 120 crore. Whether it will be eligible for MSME registration? No, because the philosophy is that trading turnover will be counted. Although trading activity is not eligible for MSME, but trading turnover is going to be counted. So if you aggregate the turnover will be 270 crores, and therefore you are about 250 crores and therefore not registered. Let's say there is an example of a company called KDO Trans Limited, which has a fleet of truck and a turnover of 200 crore by way of freight income. It also has a cotton ginning unit at Gujarat with a turnover of 30 crore. And a KDO Trans Limited has a proprietary unit at Delhi, which undertakes trading of cloth, which has a turnover of 25 crore. Whether it will be eligible for MSME registration? Now, there's just a small catch is the unit at Delhi is a proprietary unit. So ultimately, every turnover of KDO Trans Limited will be aggregated, and therefore they are all turnover under the same PAN, and therefore the unit will not be eligible to register. These illustrations are given only for understanding the clarity of what turnover criteria can help to make us eligible or not eligible. That is understanding. Now, let me just give a small the way the things have moved in India in the recent past. Before 1970, we had no MRTP Act. At that time, business sizes were small and we were all SSIs. So it was practically, we were all small businesses. MRTP came, all enterprises went into the umbrella of remaining small because they didn't want themselves to be categorized as monopolistic or MRTP unit. Then came the liberalization of 1991, more so from FEMA 1999, and when the business started thinking big. But suddenly, from 2020 MSME focus, I think we will have to be we are forced to think whether we should be back to MSME criteria, because I believe there are a lot of benefits which have been given, and more particularly in this COVID era. The COVID era is affecting all the businesses. I'm sure this MSME benefits will help to some extent to each and every business. So whether the structural changes which have happened on the tax rates, on the dividend distribution tax rates, in the method of dividend distribution taxing, buyback of shares treatment, I think there is a lot of changes which is happening across. Simultaneously, interest rates regime is changing from a high interest rate to a lower interest rate. And today the MSME loans are being allowed at the rate of 6.65, 7.65, 8%. So we are coming down from a high interest rate regime to a low interest rate regime. Same way, some major changes which have happened in the IBC laws, which was introduced in 2016, made effective in 2017. Suddenly, there is again a change from the applicability of the default from 1 lakh to 100 lakhs. And again, there is a breather for the units which are affected by COVID for at least 6 months. So IBC is also kind of pushed back to some extent. Same way we see from VAT to service tax to GST. So all across, if you see, there has been huge changes across the way we have been doing business. But finally, we are, I think, coming back to a circle where the life and business have come to come full circle, because we are back to the old regime to think whether we should be small. So from a regime of high cost borrowings and high tax rates, and obviously with a high turnover, we are now thinking how to become Atmanirbhar, and that is where the MSME is coming into play. Benefits of MSME, I will list down for some which are old benefits, in the sense which are there because of the statute, which I will just list, and I will not narrate much of them. One is that the MSME rights are protected from not getting paid, and they are also, they have the right of interest, which is statutory, and therefore we as an auditors, those who are in the audit profession or those who are in the business, they know that if they delay the payments to MSME, they are not only required to disclose the delay, but they are also forced to pay interest if at all the unit makes the things difficult for us. Other benefits are that there is a preference in the government and waiver of earnest money deposit. So I think MSME benefits were already there. It also helps us to get some licenses, approvals, and some reimbursement of expenses, some subsidies, and obviously low interest rate. For MSME, I think there has always been a lower interest rate by at least 0.5%, 1% as compared to any other business unit, depending upon the bank to bank. There are some schemes which are available on the MSME website. I'm not going to go through that, but for the benefit of all the participants, I think you should know that there are a series of benefits which are available for the MSME, and therefore for people who have not explored, it's worth exploring. More so like market promotion schemes, entrepreneurship skill development program, infrastructure development program, which can be used even by professionals. Some of them are like, if you can see on the screen, there is a serial number 2, which talks about lean manufacturing techniques, where MSME of more than 4 to 10 MSME, if they join together, they take the benefit of economies of scale. The financial assistance of up to 36 lakh per cluster of 10 MSME is given. So this is a similarly design incentive scheme is also given, where if you are engaged into design consulting or design intervention, then you are getting some benefit ranging from 15 lakh to 40 lakh. And even students are getting benefit for that if they enter into the novel design. Similarly, we get some benefits by way of subsidy or financial assistance for the IPR registration, and also for entrepreneur and managerial development through incubator, where the developmental expenditure up to 15 lakh per idea is given, and even 1 crore worth of plant and machinery subsidies are also given to support these managerial developmental ideas. Interest subvention scheme is also there, where for those who are GST registered, we get 2% lower rate of interest charged by the banks. And this is the 7th point is very unique, where we get 15% of the upfront capital subsidy for technological upgradation. If you are an MSME, whether you are an old unit or a new unit, or whether you are expanding or you're not expanding, or you may be just kind of modernizing, you still get subsidy up to 15%. What has been now, let me now focus on to what is the recent benefits of MSME. You can see on the screen that there have been almost 11 different initiatives of the government, of which some of them which are highlighted in yellow are specific to MSME, and I'm going to talk only about MSME right now. So first incentive scheme, first measures which were granted started on 24th of March, coinciding with the lockdown, which is the self lockdown which was imposed somewhere on 22nd of March. Starting from there, the measures were announced. So there are some measures which are you must have already consumed, you must have already experienced, and therefore I will not go into the details. I will just scroll through them. From 24th of March, there was series of compliance related extensions given, starting from those who are applicable under the Companies Act, SEBI, income tax, customs and central excise, GST, IBC, accounting, audit, and also commercial issues. I think the fourth major issue is something which is very important for all of us who are going to be affected. This is in the background of obviously COVID. So I believe we are all getting right now MSME benefits mainly initiated because of the COVID. Changes in Companies Act, lot of changes happened where the time was allowed to file the old documents which we have not filed. There is still this, the scheme is on the CFSS 2020, where except for 3 or 4 types of documents, you can file all the past documents, even past as dating back to Companies Act 1956. If any documents you are not filed under that act also, you can still file without the additional fees. So I think this is a kind of amnesty scheme which has been announced for the Companies Act. Most of the MSME may not be under the Companies Act, but I think Companies Act also is relevant. Then we know that the board meeting interval, which was 120 days between the 2 board meetings, you could not have interval more than 120 days. Now it is up to 180 days. The CARO, which was expected to be applicable from this year, 2019-20, has been shifted, and independent director who could not come to the meeting will be allowed to continue without being debarred if he is there available on the video. Similarly, there are some small kind of benefits which are given where some extensions were granted. I think they are all over, so I'm not going to deliberate on that. So one change which I was talking about is the company fresh start scheme. I think this is very important for all of us to know. Please look at this scheme. It is, if you are a practicing chartered accountant or if you are an entrepreneur, I think this, and if you have failed to file some forms in the past, take the benefit of that, and I think you will get a lot of relaxation on, because there is no additional fee limit. There is a process already there, so although I'm not going to go into details of that, but finally, if you go by that process, you get an immunity certificate after filing, and then you are if there are any prosecution proceedings, penalty proceeding which has been initiated and not concluded, then you can take relief, you can get relief out of that because of the scheme. The only thing which the scheme is not applicable is where the final notice of striking off is already initiated, or where the company itself has made striking off application, or where the company is already amalgamated into another company with this under the scheme of amalgamation or compromise, or maybe there are certain charge documents which are, or where the documents related to enhancement of the authorized capital, these documents only are not eligible for the relief scheme. There were some changes in the SEBI. I think they are all done. There are some changes which are still eligible till 30th of September, which is you can hold AGM of top listed 100 companies. We are right now not much concerned about that. I'll just skip to something which is more relevant, where in the Income Tax Act, we all know that Aadhaar PAN linking date has been extended till the March. Vivad Se Vishwas scheme for income tax has been extended to 31st December. The due dates of reply notices, compliances, etc., which was all due before the 20th of March, is extended till 30th of June. I hope everybody has taken benefit of that. The TDS rates have been reduced by 75% from the applicable rate from 14th of May, and the CBDT has deferred the reporting of GST and GAR in the tax audit report by 1 more year. That apart, there are some changes in the interest rate which was applicable for the delayed payment. Same way, we have due date of ITR, which was anyway between 31st July to 31st October, has been extended to 30th of November. The tax audit date has been extended from 30th September to 31st October. time barring assessment dates have been also extended, and therefore the department also has time to make the assessment proceedings. Under central excise, the Sabka Vishwas scheme, which was extended to 30th of June, I don't think it has been extended further like the income tax act. But anyway, those who have taken benefit, I think they would be at peace as of now. GST, we have seen a lot of changes happen where the delay in filing of return, etc., has been condoned. Interest has not been levied. Even for the companies who had a turnover below 5 crore, no interest or late fee was charged. For the people who did not opt for composition scheme earlier, it was extended. The forms for GSTR 3B were allowed to be filed, which were with no fee or low fee. So I think a lot of changes have happened, except for the thing which for the higher turnover entities, the interest rate still applied, but otherwise there was a relief granted. One more change which had happened was the FDI policy, where there was a news item, and I think because of news item which was reported and widely criticized, where the state bar of, I think, Bank of China was reported to increase to 1% in HDFC, and that's HDFC Bank, and that's where people made hue and cry that now China is going to creep into a lot of our companies. That's where the change in FDI policy was happened, where countries sharing land border with India were not to be given automatic approval, even though they were under automatic road. So all these changes were made for the FDI policy to safeguard our interest. One more change which was made under IBC was that if you were MSME who had to claim money from a corporate debtor, or you were a corporate debtor and somebody has to make a claim, the claim amount which was earlier eligible at 1 lakh is now increased to 1 crore. An ordinance has been issued on 5th of June, and it is mentioned that no case against any party, more so an MSME, will be initiated who has defaulted because of the COVID. So I think, and that exemption is allowed even after the 6 months period is over from the date of ordinance. So I think this is a very welcome change where MSMEs can at least breathe to some extent. Some changes as regards stamp duty, which is also applicable to large companies where the securities, for example, debentures, and those were the stamp duty issues are now applicable from 1st of July. It was actually initiated in 2019, extended in 2020, and again extended to 1st of July, but now it is applicable. Other laws, we have seen some changes in the PF Act. I'm not going into it, but some extension is still there for up to August, where the small units having 100 employees, of which 90% of them are drawing less than 15,000 per month, they are getting the government funding of the PF for both employers and the employees. Same way, withdrawal scheme was allowed. This is important for all of us. I believe we are all guided by the institute, where they have given a kind of guidance where on some of the aspects of reporting, whether as an auditor or whether as a company in which we are doing business, there are certain areas where we have been given some advice by the institute that in case of inventory measurement, for example, we should ensure that there is no decline in sale price or inventory obsolescence before, because this is a period where almost for 4 months or 3 months, depending upon which business and where the business unit was located, there was there was no business activity. So we are all aware. I'm not going into it, but for the sake of information of all the participants, there was advisory issued by institute, and for the first time in the history of institute, that the audit and accounts both advisory was given simultaneously, and it was made available in time. This is something which was very timely. So it was in relation to inventory measurement, impairment of non-financial assets, reporting of financial instruments. Leases was very important because most of the business will have some of the other leasing transactions where also moratorium of lease payments may have been called for. But this is, I think, the institute has also given us guidance on that. Even revenue accounting. So I guess everybody would have gone through these areas where advisory was issued, like provisions, contingent liability, contingent asset, modification or termination of contract. This is very important because every contract in this COVID era, every contract would have been affected either because of non-performance of the contract or because of the force majeure, and therefore it is necessary as a professional, whether we are in practice or in the job where we are maybe a CFO or a CEO, we should be able to ensure that we are abiding by the advisory issued by the institute. Going concern is a major criteria. In fact, we have heard and we have read that many businesses across the world have gone fat. In fact, some of the businesses have also filed liquidation, and there will be some challenges even in India while we report whether the unit is still eligible as a going concern, in spite of the fact that there is a lot of challenges which it must have faced in the last 4 months. There are certain industries which are grossly affected. For example, aviation, which we all know that the worldwide aviation companies have been affected. Hotels have been affected because there is hardly any occupancy in any hotel. Oil, gas, and refinery was also affected, and therefore all the industries related to oil and gas were affected because the crude prices fell sharply because there was no demand. At one point of time, there was a negative crude price because there was no storage available. Forex related also have affected wherever we had travel related or any imports where they were all imports where forex amounts were not hedged. I think more than 6 to 7 to 8% rupee depreciation we have seen in the last 4 months. Automobiles, we have seen a lot of companies have got affected. So same way, I think a lot of businesses have got affected, financial services, renewables, and even general trade. Because generally, a lot of businesses were closed except for the companies like those who are engaged in pharma or maybe on those who are into consumer goods. They have done well. They have got the benefit of this lockdown. But otherwise, practically 90% of the industry would have got adversely affected. So based on that, I think those who have the cash in hand, they have been able to survive. Those who have high debt, they have had huge problems. Even though there will be a bank relief scheme, which we will just see after this section. I think this, let me just now focus on one area, which is force majeure. And according to me, this is a very important area where each one of us either should take the benefit of this or at least should understand that under the force majeure, what benefit can our business get? The government and the WHO and everybody has announced this COVID as a force majeure, and I'm sure it is a real problem. So all the businesses, if at all you have had any problem of not delivering any goods, not getting the goods in time, you will have an issue of force majeure which you should have invoked so that you don't get unnecessarily penalized for non-performance. In fact, there is a note which has been Ministry Finance Office memorandum note has also been there, which has justified this as a force majeure. Coming down to very important criteria of the funds. The changes which have been made by RBI, the first change, in fact, this was the changes which have been made on 27th of March. What we saw till this time was changes made on 24th of March. Now we are talking about changes and effected by RBI from 27th of March. A lot of changes on the macroeconomic criteria, which I am right now excluding, not to. But what has happened is that we got 2-3 things applicable, which is applicable to almost all of us. Those who had term loans with the banks and they had challenges to make the payments of installments, the moratorium has been granted, which has been now extended to 31st of August. So you don't need to pay the term loan installments for the period which is due from 1st of March till 31st of August. Similarly, any interest on working capital facility is also now extended, is under moratorium till 31st of August. The one more thing which the government has proactively thought is that what happens after 31st of August. So they have said even after 1st of September, you don't pay everything. You will be given FITL, which is funded interest term loan by the bank, so that you are not immediately pressurized to pay all the money which was due for the last 6 months. So typically all the enterprise, all the MSME, not only MSME, this is applicable for all. So all the businesses should, if at all their cash flows don't permit, they should apply for the FITL if they are not already applied, so that there is no challenge even on 1st of September. Because what FITL has, the RBI has allowed is that the banks will allow the FITL for the funded interest and the term loan, which has been under moratorium, to be paid over a period of next 9 months till 31st of March. 2021. So you will have a staggered payment of the amount which you are not paid. Similarly, for exports made for up to 31st of July, earlier the criteria was that we should bring the proceeds into India within 9 months. Now it is extended to 15 months. And for all the accounts which are not NPA on 1st of March, they will not be downgraded till 31st of August. That means if you are having challenge, if you are already onto till SMA 0, SMA 1, SMA 2, if you are not an NPA, you can continue to be under the same criteria, whether if you are SMA 1 or SMA 2 at that time, you continue to be in the same grade till 31st of August. Bank, like one more thing which I think many people have not used this facility is that the banks have allowed to change the working capital cycle, and they have said that the margins which are otherwise required as per the sanction, let's say for example on the CC facility there is a margin which is stipulated by to be brought by the promoter 25%, 30% on the stocks of the debtors. They are reducing that margin to even 10%, subject to you're justifying that. And this change not only on the margin but even for the eligibility of debtors. For example, earlier the debtors which were eligible was only, select say as per your sanction was 90 days. The banks are also extending those debtors which are up to 180 days, subject to the case to case basis. So this I think is a very important change which RBI has proactively thought, and this benefit will be available at least for 31st of March 2021. Until that, by that time, you may have an opportunity to review your limits with the bank. So then you will obviously get further benefit which can be extended, although not on the same margin level, but maybe by way of enhancement of limit. So what further banks have done based on the 27th March, they have provided 10% additional working capital facility. Many of our clients have got that facility, and it is applicable only where you are an MSME or others, but your account is standard and not SMA2. And for this purpose, only CC OD facilities have been considered as the base. So if your CC facility and there is no limit, of 25 crore or something, this is without limit. So if your working capital facilities was, say, let's say for example 50 crore, you could get an additional working capital of 5 crore based on the existing working capital utilization. The one more thing which banks have proactively thought, that they have not asked for any additional collateral for this additional 10% which has been granted, but banks have been although it was not desirable, but banks have mentioned that all the existing security which is available to them, the new additional loans are also extended. So there is a further mortgage or hypothecation documents are going to be filed. So this is one thing which has already happened. In most of the cases, I think this action would have taken place for those who are enjoying the working capital facilities. Some small things, financial services charges were extended. Now it is anyways, we all have got the SMSs and emails where the ATM charges and all those things are now getting revised. What major another relief came was on 13th May 2020 with a Atmanirbhar Package 1. You are all aware that continuously for 5 days there was a series of announcements from Atmanirbhar 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, starting 13th of May to 17th of May. Out of these five announcements, the announcement for number 1 and number 5 are more focused on MSME. Therefore, I am talking about those two. In the first announcement, which was I think the key major change which all must have seen, all must have verified, but for the sake of those who have not seen, the government has announced that for all the MSME borrowers, they will be granted additional 20% of the entire outstanding credit which was outstanding as on 29th of February 2020. If your outstanding was up to 25 crore and if your turnover was up to 100 crore. So therefore, practically, if you are 25 crore outstanding, you will get 5 crore. So you are getting additional maximum 5 crore as an additional facility. And this facility is by way of a term loan with a 4-year tenor with a moratorium of 12 months. The present cost at which they are being sanctioned is in the range of around 7.6% to 7.65%. And this scheme is still available till 31st of October. You would be surprised that the banks have not got enough applications And today also, I mean, I'm talking about some of the banks which I work with. The banks are pushing that, find out which are the clients who want more funds. So basically, there was a target of 3 lakh crore. As of now, for the last announcement which I heard, it was 75,000 crore only has been sanctioned, of which not everything has been utilized. So there is a lot of funds available. If at all there are some clients or some businesses or your own or entrepreneur enterprise requires some funds and you are eligible under this criteria, two more criteria are there. That one is you should be MSME registered, and secondly, you should have a GST registration. So these four criteria are there, and for the purpose of this 25 crore, all the borrowings from any MLI, which is member lending institute, whether it is banks or NBFC, all are counted. So if you have a business loan from the bank and if you have a, let's say, business loan from NBFC, both are aggregated. If they are up to 25 crore, you get 20% of your outstanding as on 29/2. The only catch is if you should not be a SMA2 or NPA. So that is, I think, a scheme which is available. And this is here also based on the bank's data. The banks are giving pre-sanctions for people to utilize immediately after getting their consent and some of the declarations filed. We are all aware about the FAQ which was issued by the RBI also, and some of the banks have also issued their individual FAQ as to who is eligible, and there it is also clarified that up to 25 crore whomsoever is outstanding, and this very clarity is there that excluding off balance sheet and non-fund based exposure. So that means if you have additional LC and bank guarantee limit above 25 crore, then also you are still eligible. All the scheduled commercial banks are eligible as MLI. NBFCs which have been in operation for at least 2 years are also eligible. And for the purpose of what is the definition of FI, it is given under the RBI Act. The scheme is open from 23rd of May and it will be available till 31st of October, and we should immediately rush if at all we have not got the benefit. I think this scheme is also beneficial to the extent that A, it is a term loan, so it doesn't affect our current ratio to that extent because there is a moratorium of 1 year. Secondly, the rate of interest are low. So even if you don't need, hypothetically, I mean, God willing, that's a case that you don't need funds, but if you're eligible, if you can get it, you get it, and you can maybe deploy it gainfully somewhere else. But this is a good scheme. There is another proposal where there is for the MSMEs which are stressed, which are NPAs, there also government has thought. So it is not only those who are regular, but even for the MSMEs which are under NPA, there also government has allowed a scheme whereby the government will provide a kind of support to raise a subordinate debt. Now here the scheme is like the banks will fund the promoters and the promoters will bring in the equity into the MSME. So it will be kind of a long-term support which will be granted to the promoters and therefore via promoters to the MSME.
તો પ્રિન્સિપાલ અમારા હિનાબેન શાહ છે, એમની સાથે સ્નેહાબેન.
So this is something which is again novel thinking, because we don't have examples of how this was earlier thought, but this is something which has been very differently thought, that there will be a possibility of those who are NPAs also will be granted additional facility. And typically because they are NPAs, you can't give loans directly to NPAs, therefore they are giving to the promoters, and promoters are to be investing that as a part of equity into the MSME. Same way, there is a fund of fund which has been created where government will invest 10,000 crores. Based on that, they will invite the investment from further HNIs or FIs or banks, and they will create a total mother fund, including the mother and daughter funds, a total leverage of around 50,000 crores, which will be granted to the MSME who have a viable business, and they will be infused equity. So, and the idea is that by making them more viable. And the idea is that they should be listed into the stock exchange. So it is again one more step where, so that is a three-way approach. One, those who are standard, you give them an additional loan. Second, those who are NPA, you give them you give the promoters the seed capital to invest into the MSME. And third is you really push the MSME who are good and viable to make them scale up. So this is, I think, a good progress. Three more announcements which were made simultaneously is that wherever government procurement was up to 200 crore, now global tender will not be allowed. So all the local units will participate. That will open the doors for the MSME to participate. And Government of India and all the public sector enterprise will clear all the MSME dues within 45 days. Now this was anyways required to be cleared within 45 days from the date of due. But anyways, it was an announcement, so it was kind of cheered. One more thing which is this promote e-market linkage is also got linked in the ODM portal, which we have seen. The TDS TCS rates were reduced by 25%. So practically, if you have a TDS refund normally, which you get if at all you have paid excess because of the higher TDS, you will have a little liquidity support because your TDS will be directed less. This is something which I wanted to talk. I believe all of you must be aware about the TREDS platform. This is a platform where MSMEs are given a option to get the trade receivable discounted through anybody on the platform. Now, those who are only those debtors which are accepted by the corporates will get discounted. So this platform is basically available to the good MSMEs who have got their bills accepted and the debt acknowledged by the debtors, where this can be put on the platform. And I've seen that sometimes you also get rates as low as 7.5%, 7% to get the discounting done. So this is a good platform whereby the MSME can get their debtors realized by discounting on the TREDS platform. The major announcement was thereafter made on package 5 on 17th May, where some of the announcements were in relation to IBC. I think we already talked about those announcements to some extent, where MSMEs were now insulated because the limit has been increased from 1 lakh to 1 crore. One thing which is new, not new, but for those who are already practicing under IBC or those who are aware about section 240A under the IBC code, there is a specific provision whereby it's notified. There was a section 29A was modified in 2018, whereby for the corporate debtors who are MSME, it was enabled because at that time government thought that MSME is a very unique kind of entity, and for an IBC related proceeding where there is a default by a corporate debtor, you may not find many takers of the MSME, and therefore the promoters were also made eligible to bail out their own unit. This is what was effectively done by modification. Now what is further proposed in this ordinance is that section 240A, some notification will come, some amendment under section 240A will come. We are just waiting for that. It is still not notified, but I guess there will be some relief to the MSME because this specific provisions are in relation to MSME. There are certain announcements which we are still awaiting, where we have got we have heard about decriminalization of the Companies Act defaults. There are few sections where only penalties are to be levied, prosecutions are going to be dispensed with, but we are still to hear the notification. Same way, there are some notifications still expected on how the private companies will list their NCDs on the stock exchange and how they will still not be regarded as listed companies, and how the lower penalties of all defaults by the small companies, 1% companies, etc. are going to be notified. We are still awaiting for that. One major then change was also initiated on by RBI on 22nd of May, where the RBI again changed the limit to get the proceeds received for the exports made. And I think to some extent we already seen the summary in the earlier slide, where the deferment of the interest of working capital, etc., was allowed as a kind of moratorium. lending institutions are required to hold additional provision 20% in case of large accounts under default if the resolution plan is not implemented within. Earlier it was 180 days, now it is made up to 110 days. So some relaxation is allowed for the provisioning to the banks. RBI ordinance, as I already narrated, that there was a amendment on section 10, a new section 10A was introduced, whereby section 7, section 9. Section 7 is the proceedings initiated by the financial creditors on the corporate debtor. Section 9 is the proceedings of insolvency initiated by the operational creditor on the corporate debtor. And section 10 is the proceedings of insolvency initiated by the corporate debtor himself, where now under section 10A it has been mentioned that the provisions of section 7, 9, 10 will not 7, 9 and 10 will not be effective for a period of 6 months from 25th of March, where such issues are affected because of the COVID. So there is a embargo on any new IBC proceedings for the period of 6 months. So this is something which we should be aware. And it is also clarified that if those units which have been affected by COVID, they will not be the fresh CIR, the company insolvency resolution proceedings will not be filed against them even after the 6 months, because if they have suffered in the period of March, then the default will be continuing. So therefore, the ordinance has made it clear. Here, as I said, there was a section 240A which is required to be amended. We are waiting for that. We are expecting that changes. We had recently had a meeting with Dr. Sahu of IBBI, where we are expecting that the embargo of section 10A, where section 10 applications were also denied, there may be possibility where section 10 applications will be allowed. In the sense, corporate debtor himself, if he wants to go into the insolvency proceedings, it may be allowed, because the logic is that if the corporate debtor himself is not able to survive, then let him get a kind of resolution done. This is a concept of champion, which is part of the MSME Act, where the government has created a portal. It was inaugurated on the 1st of June, where in the portal, online help is available to all MSMEs, where if you have any difficulty, you want to register a grievance, you have a suggestion, you want to know about the schemes, anything related to MSME scheme, you are this champion portal is, and they are, and all the district centers are connected online, live via video conferencing. So I think this is a very novel concept where government has initiated a platform also to deal with all the difficulties of an MSME. I'm just keeping some time for question answer. Therefore, I'm just trying to give you the heads up on what are the professional opportunities. We are all chartered accountants, so obviously either we are in practice or we are an entrepreneur. Either we are part of a corporate or we are on our own. So I believe this MSME has a huge potential to give us a practice area. I've seen some chartered accountants who are now only focusing on MSME, and their client, they are trying to promise the clients about, not promise in that sense, but they are going to cater to any requirement. So it is like outsourcing CFO, come getting all the benefits of MSME of the schemes, come getting all the financial licensing and bank licensing for the MSME to get the loans, and such other subsidy benefits which are otherwise available to the MSME. So either you can register. Okay, one more thing which we have done in our form, the Talati and Talati, we have got ourselves also registered as MSME. So it is something where, because we also see that we can get benefit of MSME about getting subsidy or getting market development assistance for any kind of foreign initiatives which we do. We have also exports of our services. So I think for all of us who are into practice area, MSME registration can help. Even for an entrepreneur who is in the business, I think the MSME benefits will be available. So I think with this, I'm now leaving the floor open for any questions. I hope I've been able to give some justice on the topic of MSME.
Yes, of course, sir. There are a few questions which I have listed
Yeah,
down. I'll also WhatsApp to you and just speak up
sure.
also.
One thing which I have been asked is that we are mainly into trading community and we are into wholesale and retail and what benefits we can arrive as a MSME. See, I am first of all proud of our community uh, that we are not only traders, we are entrepreneurs. So if at all we see that MSME is going to benefit us, I am sure people will start working to get a kind of business which is service oriented and trading. So maybe you are trader, but you are still doing some service. You are still doing, even if you don't want to do any manufacturing part, but in the trading which you are doing, there may be an opportunity where you can do some value add, where you can do some services, or even if you can do a manufacturing activity with a small processing, then also fine. The idea is to get yourself registered as MSME. You continue to do trade, but so far as your total turnover is below 250 crore, I think you should get benefit, and therefore those who are only traders, I think I mean पंहिंजे कम्युनिटी में મળે જણા ગણેશ ઘणे अॻियां पड़ता वीचार बि करिए था ने आई थिंक हेड़ा अपॉर्चुनिटी जो मिले त पाण थोरो हिकिड़ो इंडो सेटअप हुन ज कंपनी में हिकिड़ो इंडो सेटअप बि कयो जिन में पाण सर्विस कयूं कोई बि सर्विस इंडस्ट्री में पाण कमु कयूं कमु ॾियूं रादर पंहिंजे क्लाइंट्स खे अने पाण धंधो बि कयूं એટલે હું हिकिड़ो फोकस जो जॉइंट वेंचर जहिड़ो जॉइंट एक्टिविटी થઈ वञे आई थिंक वी विल बी एबल टू गेट द बेनिफिट ऑफ MSME. At the
Kaushik
time of
bhai,
getting benefit of MSME, sorry, let me complete on that. When we are talking of benefit of MSME, there is no pro rata of the volume of services. So if you are talking having a turnover of 50 crore and you are doing a service of only 50 lakh, the point is that you are into service. I think that is what matters. Yeah, sorry, continue.
Kaushik bhai, this is Sameer. Basically, I work with the Development Bank of Singapore, and I largely manage the priority sector initiative for the bank. Just to clarify
Right.
one point here, is that in the earlier MSME definition Act, retail trade was part of the service enterprise. So I think,
Right.
can you put some light in this, whether retail trade is still eligible under MSME Act, or it is still it is part largely excluded on that?
See, the retail trade per se is excluded. If I can just go back to the this slide where there is a specific exclusion, wholesale and retail trade and repair of vehicles and motorcycles, wholesale trade except for motor vehicles and motorcycles. So and retail trade except for motor vehicles and motorcycles. So these are the activities which are now specifically excluded for the MSME eligibility. So there is a little clarity on that aspect. So if you are only trader, as I already clarified, if you are only trader, you will have a challenge. So you should have some activity together as a service provider or as a manufacturer.
Uh, the next question
Thank you.
is the automobile sector is down, but if we have a separate authorized automobile center, can we establish it as a separate company and cover under MSME?
See, I can give you example. Like one of my client is an authorized dealer of one of the major, like for example, Maruti or Toyota or anybody. Now they are only trading. They are a whole the dealer. And they are also doing service. So while they are dealer, they are eligible, and the service part is part of their existing business. So where we are talking of wholesale trade except for motor vehicles and motorcycles. So the wholesale trade of motorcycle is eligible as MSME. Now in this case, if you are also doing the service part, because you will be doing motor vehicle servicing also, then you will be part of the same trade, which I believe will be part of the MSME registration. Am I answering your question?
Yes, sir, I think yes.
There was one question which have
The
been
next,
sent is that
yeah, I'll
other
just read out
benefits
the
like
question and
interest.
then
Okay, you can read out.
I think other benefits like interest subvention, loans, which are beneficial to MSME, you have covered it extensively in your slide. So we can,
Right.
I think we can skip that question.
Right.
Uh, the next question is during audit, how can we identify the counterparty whether he is a registered MSME or not? Is there any portal where we can check, or we have to ask each and every supplier?
See, I think in the MSME portal, in the once you get this registration done, uh, as an auditor, for us to verify whether he is a MSME or not, I think there will be a challenge, because if we don't have the MSME registration number, but I guess there will be, if you are able to log in as a no, sorry, but you will have to have some kind of registration number. Then only I think you will be able to verify whether he's a MSME or not. Alternately, as what we do is normally we take a declaration, or we take a confirmation that you are not MSME or you are an MSME. And as an auditor, okay, this is a creditor, so it will be a little challenge.
The issue is there itself, because the confirmations come a little bit late or they don't come at all. So we are not
Right,
aware about who are the MSMEs.
right. And so far we have been going on to the practice. We have been writing notes somewhere that we have not got any declaration from the parties, although we have sent the confirmation, etc. So as an auditor, we are sending our audit evidences for verification, but sometimes we don't get the evidences verified.
Yes. The next question is, we are a RBI registered NBFC with no loans taken or bank exposure. We are only in lending loans. Are we eligible for many of the schemes for MSME which are listed in the PPT?
Yes, I think there are few benefits which are also given to NBFCs. The only criteria is, I think you should be into business for last 2 years plus, and if you are there, then you are getting the additional. You can claim for there is a 30,000 crore, 40,000. I'll just go to that slide. Around that 30,000 crore funds are made available to the NBFC utilization, because finally, if you are lending it further, you are, I believe you are not borrowing, but you are lending, right?
Yes. Yes.
So in case you are lending, you are able to get some additional funds. Here it is, where investment in primary and secondary market transaction in the investment grade paper of NBFC will be promoted. So if you float a kind of paper, and the government will subscribe to, government agencies will subscribe to that. So there are two different schemes where NBFCs are also, and this benefit was announced as a part of the benefits to to MSMEs, where NBFCs are given the additional support so that they can fund it to the MSMEs. If you can see, this is also expected to benefit MSME in the last line. So ultimately, the aim of the government was to see that the NBFCs are also given some funds so that they can give the funds further to MSME.
Okay. I think for the earlier question, there was one follow-up question that as per your PPT, enterprises doing business of automobile authorized wholesale spare part is covered under MSME.
Yes.
Means he's asking a question whether wholesale spare parts is also covered under MSME. Because
Wholesale spare part I mean, no, as a prima facie, it won't be, because you are a trader then.
yes,
You're not linking to yourself to a automobile, right? You're only doing a
yes,
wholesale spare part business. If I
yes,
understand the question right, it is not linked only to the automobiles. You are doing a spare part business. It may be of your only automobiles, but still it will be a trade, wholesale trade. So it won't be eligible as a for the registration.
okay. Uh, then the next question is a series of questions related to the turnover confusion and between turnover between MSME, GST, and income tax, which they will link, which will they be linking. So one
Right.
of the question is, in case of upward graduations due to turnover as per new definitions, the revised category will be applicable only after 31st March 2022 or before that?
See, if you have a turnover this year, which is 2019-20, I'm also telling you 19-20, the year gone by. Suppose your turnover at that time was 250 crore or less than 250 crore. You can still register yourself as medium because earlier turnover definition was not there. And if your investment, one thing which I think I missed out to tell all the participants is that you will be able to register yourself even if you are not registered earlier as an MSME under old laws. So if in under old laws you are eligible as let's say medium enterprise, you may be now a small enterprise based on the criteria, but you will still be eligible to be registered. Now upgradation will be dependent on today's filing. So if you are filing on, let's say on 25th of July you are applying on the basis of a turnover of 1920. On the basis of 1920 turnover, if you are eligible to be classified as small or medium, it will be so be it. And next year and this will be linked by GST portal. So next year, if 2021, which is this current financial year, if your turnover is, let's say today your turnover is, let's say, less than 50 crore. Next year your turnover is, let's say, up to 250 crore. Then you will graduate in 2021 itself. But if you are not filing it now and you are doing it only in the next year and you want it to happen by way of declaration, then it will happen in 2021-22.
Okay. The next question is, if the entity is 100% export oriented unit, shall we assume nil turnover and the entity will be classified into MSME based on the investment in plant and machinery?
No, practically 100% EOUs don't mean nil turnover. 100% EOUs are also allowed to sell in domestic tariff area up to a criteria. It could be up to 34% depending upon which kind of EOUs it is. It depends on which commodity it is. And if you are selling within India to another unit, it will still be under DTA sale. So you will not be assumed to have a zero turnover just because you are 100% EOU. Your turnover will be caught from the GST portal. So the beauty of the whole process is that if you are, suppose you are not filing, suppose you already applied for this, you are registered yourself under the Udyam, and this you are registered based on your declaration that my turnover is, let's say, 10 crore. The criteria of whether you are eligible for a lower or a higher upgradation or graduation will depend on the turnover as defined under the GST your returns. And under GST returns, the GSTN will directly identify those who are exports will be excluded, those who are domestic area sales will be included. So I think it will not always be necessary that it is zero turnover. Although there are some EOUs which may have a zero turnover, but I think very few. There will be some of the other domestic.
I think the question is, I think the question was for calculating that 250 crore limit, whether suppose if I'm exporting goods worth rupees 300 crore and the limit is 200 crore, whether then also we can apply for MSME license. Because
yes, so if your investment in plant and machinery is up to 50 crore, you can apply. So now, if suppose your turnover, now let me elaborate the question in a different way. Suppose your turnover is, let's say, 5 crore or zero, but your investment in plant and machinery is based on that investment, you are classified as either micro or small or medium, you can still apply because you have qualified for both the criteria.
No. So the question was really if I am a 100% export unit, I am doing say IT services, and my turnover annual turnover is around 10 crore only, and I am in I have an office in SEZ. Then still I need to do an MSME registration, whether I am eligible for MSME registration or not. That's the question.
Yes, you are.
Then on what basis I will be classified?
On the basis of your investment in plant and machinery, because the classification is joint.
Sorry, I didn't get that. Sorry.
Classification is on the joint criteria. So if your turnover is zero, hypothetically, and your investment in plant and machinery is less than, let's say, 10 first slab 10 crores, then you will still be under micro. If your investment in plant and machinery up to 50 crore, then you will be under the small criteria. And if your investment is up to 50 crore, then will be under the medium criteria. So in
Okay.
which case,
Yeah, so
criterion
classification
of,
will be based on plant and machinery itself. There is no
yes, yes,
turnover which I need to. Okay, okay, got
no,
it. Thank
it
you.
was, yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah.
The next question is if entity is filing GST returns for more than one states, the question is whether all the data will be clubbed by the portal
Yes,
for
yes,
sales. I think
yes,
yeah.
yes.
Next question is normally as per GST laws and the accounting standards or income tax laws which we follow, the turnover differs in all the cases in ITR,
Yeah,
GST as well as in accounts. For
right,
example, the GST turnover includes branch transfer between the same entity between two states.
right.
So, if they take the turnover directly, there might be some anomaly. So,
Yes,
uh,
yes.
so
So your
whether
answer is
whether
very
there will be
right. So
whether
there
they
will
will
be
be
a,
yes, sir, speak, sir. Sorry.
yeah. So yeah, I think what the law has been made clear is that turnover will be taken from the GST portal, and investment in plant and machinery will be taken from the ITR portal. So if at all the turnover as per GST, as per your numbers, are including some turnover which should not have been included, I think there will be a challenge, because the GST turnover is going in case of the actual monitoring, it will be automatically done by the portal. So you don't need to even do that. So once you're registered, if your GST portal turnover is, let's say, 100 crores and another unit has 151 crores, for example, and your total is 251 crores, then you will be automatically out of the coverage area for the next year. The only relief which is given under the act is that if you get out of uh, the specific classification, the specific classification available for that financial year, but not for the next financial year. So here the challenge is, yes, the turnover is going to be captured on the basis of the GST portal turnover, where only exports are going to be excluded.
Okay. The next question is, uh, dear sir, some sources say that electricity concession is available to MSME. If true, then
Yes.
please explain how they can avail this benefit.
They are available. In fact, on the HT connections, the tariff rates are also lower. So if you are MSME, you can go to respective distribution company. For example, in one of my client, where we had a client in Uttar Gujarat, which is Udyog Nigam, we applied as an MSME, and we got a connection where the tariff rates were granted rebate. So practically, you will have to, when you go for a connection, or if you already obtain a connection, you may have to apply to the same distribution company by mentioning that I am as MSME, and you may kindly give me the applicable tariff rate. In fact, if you see their tariff rates also, there will be specific clauses as to where the tariff in relation to the MSMEs is how much.
Okay. The next question is, if one is not liable to get registered under GST due to the exemptions available, uh, whether for availing benefit, taking benefit of MSME, whether he has to mandatorily get registered in GST portal?
The presently drafted law says that yes, you should be having a GST registration at least after 1st of April 2021. So this year you may still get the benefit of MSME registration because you are exempted. You are not required to file the GST returns. But from next year onwards, and the GST registration and because finally the requirement is of GST registration as well.
Okay. Uh, Suppose a company is getting some items manufactured outside India, imports it and sell them locally. Can this company apply for MSME?
Uh, it will be difficult to prove that he is doing on your behalf, unless how we are going to, because for ensuring that you are defined to carry out some processing, basically the GST law will not give you any documents to prove that this was done as a job work or this was done by way of processing. In the present case, what will happen is that you will import a good, and because the exporter of goods residing outside the country, he would have procured the goods from his country and he would have processed and sold it to you. So it will be difficult for you to prove that you are a processor or a service provider, and therefore it will be a trading activity per se, because what you are importing is the initiation of the transaction. Unless, as I said, if you have a chance where you say I am importing on my behalf, so there is a BL in your name for a country, even if it is not imported in India. So hypothetically, you imported that product in a country outside India where you are going to get it processed. There is a purchase in your books. Then it will be a different position.
Yes. I think the time is getting up. We had a good suggestion from Kumar Bhai Dand. He says that there are many small manufacturers and service providers in our community. His suggestion is that can we have a nominated volunteer who has the knowledge of MSME and he can guide the community professionally. The main aim will be getting finances. I think it is a good suggestion, and we'll definitely take it up and try to provide some kind of solution along with
Sure,
the help
sure.
of
And wherever
Kaushik
you
Bhai,
feel
of
that
course.
I can be of some help, I will be obviously available.
Definitely. I think we have to close the Q&A session because it's already 6:30. If there are any further questions, you can write it to us and we'll definitely forward it to Kaushik Bhai for his reply. Uh, just before a formal vote of thanks, I would like to make an announcement for the next session. Our next webinar will be on 8th of August. Kindly note that instead of the normal 5 to 6:30 timing, it will be 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. in the morning. And it will be, and the session is on standards on auditing. And it will be, the speakers will be the past presidents of ICI, CA Nilesh Vikamsi and CA Amarjit Chopra. Both are very good speakers and reputed CAs in our community. Do attend, and we will be sending the flyers and the link for that shortly. Coming to formal vote of thanks, I must say that Kaushik Bhai and everybody will agree that Kaushik Bhai has taken the entire gambit of MSME in a very lucid manner. He has given a very uh, detailed idea on various aspects like income tax, indirect taxes, GST, customs duty, FDI policies, Companies Act. He has covered many things other than this also, like insolvencies related thing, banking, finance, and many more things. I would like to present a hearty vote of thanks and thank him once again for accepting our invitation and presenting a very beautiful webinar. I would also thank all the participants for their for making this a very interactive session, and we do hope that we will see you once again.
Thank you very
Kaushik
much.
bhai, you want
Thank you,
to add?
Charlie. Thank you
Welcome.
very much. Thanks to all
Once
for giving me this opportunity.
Kaushik bhai, just a minute. Thank you so
Yeah,
much for the excellent talk, and
thank you.
more so for spontaneously accepting our invitation to be a mentor for the MSME scheme with the small entrepreneurs.
Sure, sure. My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Kaushik bhai, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, once again.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.